Tome, which I've just told you, and returned to constitutionalism in Togo after the demise of President Yassingbe Eyadema. Appreciation for Nigerians' role in the search for an end to conflict and for peace, reconciliation, and reintegration among people, groups, and parties in the affected countries has been expressed in private and formal communications, the latest of which have come from President Laurent Gbagbo of Cote d'Ivoire and Mr. Alassane Ouattara, the Prime Minister of Cote d'Ivoire at that time, to President Obasanjo of Nigeria. Nigeria contributes substantially to the African Union annual budget and has hosted several regular and special summits of African leaders under the Organization of African Unity and or the AU in 1980, 1991, 2001, 2005. Nigeria firmly supports NEPAD, which is the new initiative for African economic reach for new partnership for African development, and is one of the principal movers behind the development of the Organization of African Union AU mechanism on conflict resolution and the mainstreaming of the CSSDA process into conflict resolution. Initiatives of the successful African unity. Nigeria's most profound contribution on the continent remains its peacekeeping activities. When Nigeria was less than 2 years old, it contributed troops and led a battalion or so that went to the then Congo, which was Zaire at that time. Remember the problem of Lumumba. Global dimension, I'm concluding. Historically, Nigeria in the slave trade period, about 13th to early 19th century, had its citizens globalized. In quotes, they were sent to Europe and to New World, to America, to the Americas, fortunately as slaves. Today, the influence of indigenous Nigerian culture, especially African traditional religions, Nigerian languages, are still discernible in Brazil, in Cuba, in Haiti, and generally in the Caribbean, to mention just a few. I remember while serving in Brazil in 1991 to 1994, I was told to go and give award certificate for Brazilians who had learned Yoruba language. And it was so interesting to see how much progress has been done. I listened to the Yoruba folklore sung in Salvador, in northeastern Brazil, and they were singing my mother tongue, only they did not understand what they were saying. When they were singing, it came to a point that they saw me, I was blushing. I will tell you how a black man blushes now. When in the winter you begin to sweat, then the African is blushing. One of the things that I heard was a princess singing how she was taken as a slave, that she was going for a walk in the evening. The moonlight was there, was so beautiful. And the father, who was a king, warned her never to walk alone without the bodyguards. And the slave raiders came and took her. I say, and here am I, a slave, a princess. How is it that a princess could become a slave? What has happened to my father's world? It was so emotional. Such language, still speaking the Yoruba language, is still spoken and learned in Brazil, to some extent, in Cuba. You can see, especially in the religious aspects, the Orishas. You know, those who speak Portuguese will know what is Orisha. It's a Yoruba word for saints and their religion. At the global level, Nigeria is a member of the United Nations and several other international organizations, including the Commonwealth. As the 99th member of the United Nations, 1960, the country has actively promoted the work of the organization through its participation in the United Nations peacekeeping operations, regional peacekeeping initiatives, and mainstreaming United Nations resolutions and decisions into national policy implementation in all areas. Nigeria has contributed and continues to contribute to the cause of peace, security, and stability in the world. Nigeria is also a member of the Commonwealth, an active one. Nigeria served as the chairman of the United Nations Special Committee Against Apartheid, from which he effectively drew the attention of the international community to the pernicious evils of the apartheid system. It mobilized support for the isolation and boycott of apartheid South Africa in global politics, finance and trade, and sports. With the exception of a 6-month period, 1975, Nigeria served on that committee from 1974 until 1994 for 20 years, when the apartheid system in South Africa was replaced. Nigeria has participated in all initiatives geared towards disarmament and non-proliferation. As a consequence, Nigeria is today party to all disarmament-related treaties and conventions, namely the Chemical Weapons Convention, the Biological Weapons Convention, the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, and the Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty. I covered the first committee of the United Nations, which deals with disarmament and international peace and security. Where required under their provisions, Nigeria has set up appropriate national institutions as focal points in our dealings on the matter. Currently, at the United Nations, Nigeria is one of the co-sponsors of resolutions aimed at fast-tracking a universal and legally binding instrument to control and ultimately eliminate illicit circulation, trade in small arms and light weapons. Africa is the greatest victim of small arms and light weapons. You know these statistically. On every African head, there are 7 bullets for and 4 guns. We are essentially importer and victims. We are not generally manufacturer, apart from 2 countries or so. On bilateral cooperation, Nigeria has evolved productive cooperation with several countries. For some regional and extra-regional countries, it had offered, on request, technical expertise through its Technical Aid Corps scheme, which was started in 1987. I was one of the people serving the minister when we compiled a list of teachers, workers who will help less endowed African and Caribbean countries. And up to today, Nigeria has sent out thousands of technical aid corps to teach, to help our fellow Africans and Africans in diaspora and any other country that requests for such. Some of their numbers vary from 200 to 300 or 1,000 in these countries in key industry. Nigeria has also given concessional supply of petroleum to needy countries, budgetary support to hard-pressed countries, and co-investments in key industrial areas identified by experts of countries involved. It is noteworthy, for example, to note that some Nigerian nationals who have completed their 2-year assignment as member of the Technical Aid Corps program have been retained and given employment in the countries of service. Nigeria considers this as a practical example of South-South cooperation. As part of the commitment to good neighborliness and African integration, Nigeria has almost completed the execution of part of the Trans-African Highway within the national boundary. Nigeria is an ardent observer of the rule of law. The verdict of the International Court of Justice awarding on 10th of October 2002 the oil-rich Bakassi Peninsula to Cameroon was accepted by Nigeria, and on the 14th of August 2008, the land was formally handed over by the government of President Umaru Musa Yar'Adua to the Cameroonian authorities in compliance with the rule of the international law. It is believed that the peaceful resolution of the Bakassi conflict by both Nigeria and Cameroon, despite various political and logistic challenges, represents a great lesson by Nigeria and Cameroon to the rest of the world in international relations, especially on the principle of peaceful coexistence and resolution of conflict, coexistence of nations. The cases of peaceful cession of territories, especially oil-rich ones, are not common in modern history. In conclusion, the Federal Republic of Nigeria, with about 150 million population, is undoubtedly the greatest concentration of black people in the world, a major producer and exporter of petroleum oil, with an overwhelming youthful population, has remained and will most probably remain an active player on the international scene. With the right mix of developed human and natural, Nigeria has about 133 universities today. When I was in the university in the 1970s, 80s, there were only 5. With the right mix of developed human and natural resources, and I say the right mix of developed human and natural resources that it is currently endowed with, and you know, many Nigerians are here in the U.S. I remember hearing about 3 years ago that if Nigeria should withdraw its medical personnel, nurses and doctors in the U.S., the health delivery system of the United States might collapse. It's not me, BBC said this. With the right mix of development, human and natural resources